I'm not gonna sit down here and say like I never go out and all that. You need that. You definitely need to go out and play and have fun and go out from time to time. But if that becomes a habit, then I think it's a problem.
Yeah. Never discredit or disrespect your journey, like, because you're there for a reason and the choices that you make have meaning. And just embracing change, like nothing changes if nothing changes. And that was a real quote that stood out for me because it's so true. It's like nothing will change in your life if you don't make the change.
And we are in. I'm gonna start with the question again,
Okay.
like last episode, because you're 25, 29.
29. I'm almost leaving my 20s.
Yeah, so you
fucked up.
getting into your 3-0.
Thanks for reminding.
How do you feel? How would you describe the decade of your 20s? And not necessarily your own experiences, but like in general. And what do you think is the universal lesson from being in your 20s? Or lessons?
I think your 20s is like just about figuring out yourself. So I asked my sister this question, like, how do you feel going into your 30s? She was like, my 30s are the best years of my life.
That's a lot of people. That's
like
what I hear a lot of people
She's loving
say.
it. She's like, I don't know what's so fucking terrifying. And there is that stigma where it's like, oh, I'm 30, supposed to have my shit together. But if I look back on my 20s and if I kind of feel how I feel towards it, my 20s was exciting, enjoyable, terrifying, horrendous, breakups, new relationships, new jobs, traveling. It was just figuring out who I am. And I think that's what your 20s is about. I don't think you should have anything figured out at 20. You're not going to. Remove that immediately. Your 20s is about making, and life really in general is about making fucking as many as mistakes, going for things, saying yes to things, knowing who you are, what your boundaries are, what you like, what you don't like, who you want around you. I would say, sort of looking back, before I start giving advice on it, in your 20s, like really start to think about your intent, your purpose, what your journey is, who you're surrounding yourself with. I think that if anyone was given the opportunities to live from their 20s again, they would go about it a very different way, like as anyone would at any decade. Maybe that's quite stupid to say, but I think 20s is a particular very pivotal kind of like 10 years. Maybe you might have had more fun. Maybe you would have focused down a bit more. I think 20s is just about going out and just having as many experiences as possible and not being too hard on yourself.
Yeah, man. I feel, I'm 27 now, so I've got 3 years to reach 30. But you know what? Like, I'm quite excited about the 30s because I experienced a lot of growth from 21 or 21 to like 26. That was like 5 years that I had. It was just immense amount of growth. Like I started going jiu-jitsu, took Muay Thai, had some fights, traveled, started different businesses, failed at all of them, worked at marketing agencies, worked on like different jobs and moved cities, moved countries. So that was like so much of everything. And I feel like I grew a lot. And when I feel like from 26 to 31, the next 5 years is going to be a lot of growth plus what I had in the past 5 years. It compounds. That's it. So that's why I'm really excited, because when I'm looking back on those, when I'm looking back on who I was at like 21, I was just like so clueless of things in general. And I hope I'm going to look the same way I look at myself. I hope I'm going to look at myself from 31 to like 27 or 26. Are like, you were just like so stupid. I hope it's going to be the case, because I feel if you're not looking at yourself that way, like you're not really growing. Like if you're the same person like that you were 10 years ago, like come on man, like it's not really a good thing. And I read this thing that from 20s to 30s, you're kind of figuring yourself out. Then from 30s to 40s, you double or triple down on what worked, on what worked in your 20s. And then actually only in your 40s and 50s, you start to live your authentic you, because you know yourself so well. You know what you like, you know what you dislike. You know, you probably have a very narrow circle of people. Can you say narrow circle of people?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
You
can say whatever the fuck you want, man.
Fuck that. Yeah, and then everything you do is just for like, you know what you're doing in a way. Like now I'm like, when you're in your 20s, you're kind of like, I'm gonna take this, I'm gonna take that. You try as many different things and you see what's gonna stick. But when you're in your 40s and 50s, you still try. You can obviously try new things and it's completely fine. But you know yourself a lot more than obviously at your 20s.
Yeah, and your life just doesn't end at 30 like I thought it did, you know.
Oh really?
Well, yeah,
that's what loads of people say, that like that it by 30s I have to have this house, marriage, all of that shit,
be a millionaire, like all this stupid stuff.
Yeah,
I remember I was watching this thing like Khabib, and he was talking about his journey to world champion, and he was like, obviously worked really hard, eat, pray, gym, you know, all of that sort of stuff, got an injury, didn't have the chance to become world champion, and he got his world champion at 33. And he was like, before that, he was like, I almost gave up. My dad told me to keep pushing. And he said, it's never too late, you know? And like you were saying, your 20s is about doing as many things as possible, trying out new jobs, if like putting yourself in a position that allows you to experience things that you like, what you don't like. And then, like you were saying, in your 30s, I think it's about doubling down on that. And then, you know, even then, like, and not to say that you can't try new things if you're older, of course you can. But I feel whilst you've got that energy, like even for me now, I don't think I can work as hard as like with as much energy as I did when I was 21.
That's so true.
And I'm 29 now, and I feel crazy saying that because I still have my youth. Hey guys, thank you so much for making it this far into the podcast. If you have any feedback, then please let us know, as we always want to make this podcast better. So hearing from you is always a pleasure. Please subscribe to all of our platforms. Get involved at Triangle Theory. If you've got any comments, or if you want to share any topics that you think that me and Conrad would like to talk about, then please get involved. We'd love to hear from you. Thank you so much. But takes me longer for things like hangovers, takes me...
Oh, yes.
When I eat, I just want to sit down. You know, I used to be able to eat and go straight to the gym and stuff like that.
When I was 21, I used to sleep 5 hours a day. I used to wake up at like after 5 hours, go to the park, exercise with, weight?
Yeah.
So we used to do like boxing, like pads,
okay, cool.
Sometimes grappling, like no matter if it's raining, snowing, I just used to do all of the stuff. Then go to work, because I used to work in a warehouse, like just furniture warehouse. We used to carry furniture, like load the vans and all of that, like trucks. Then after work, I used to go straight to jiu-jitsu training, 3 hours there, go home. Used to do like shadow boxing and all of that, meditate, like just crazy. And then I eat and go straight to sleep. After 5 hours, I go do the same thing.
Yeah.
And I'm looking back and I was like, how the fuck did I do that? Like now, if I sleep 5 hours, I'm dead. Like I can operate on like 7.5, but it's not sustainable. Like if I do 7.5, the next day I have to do like 8, 9.
Yeah.
So I really, really struggle with sleep. So yeah, definitely, I feel that energy levels are completely different right now.
Totally. I mean, I and also going with sleep, I understand the importance of it, because before I could do a day with a lack of and be fine, but like, fuck, if I don't get 8 or like 7, I can't even.
Yeah.
It's crazy. But I feel that with being in your 20s, that sort of self-discovery, personal growth, exploring your interests and passions, reflecting on yourself, understanding your values and your goals is a really, I'd say, like probably like a priority.
Yeah.
For those that are just coming into their 20s. And I think that if you are sort of taking that, embracing change and taking it how it comes, you know, I used to feel like I was supposed to have everything right now, and that's just obviously not a sustainable mindset to have. And also be okay that life is going to change. Like if you're only in your 20s, so therefore, of course, your life's going to change. You know, but my big thing was understanding myself in a way that allowed me to be more confident as a person of who I am now. And that came from putting in the hard work of trying to figure out who that person was, trying to get over the insecurities, trying to, you know, but for me, it was just, I tried to put myself in as many positions and situations that really allowed me to try and take life, you know. And give yourself responsibilities, you know.
That's a huge one.
I think that's a really big growth.
That's a huge one.
You know, the moment that you start going down the career and professional development side of things and finding a career path, you know, you might be in a job right now that you fucking hate and you want to be doing something else. Start looking at ways that you can reduce the job that you don't like to do the things that you like, because you can do that at your 20s. Because if it fails, you've got so much time to recover from that. Like even now, with my business Taskmaster, if it was to fail right now, I know I've got enough time to turn it around. Like I do, really. Whether it was before in my 20s, I felt like that wasn't the case.
Well, you have a lot more knowledge now how to do things, and that like you have a larger network as well. So probably wouldn't be a case of you building a business for so long before you can make a living out of it. You probably just jump straight back into earning something from the business because you know how to do things.
And this is something as well. So I started working on CPOts when I was 19, and I did that for 4 years. So we're still working like 23, and Charlie and I said, I remember I was like, I don't want to do yachting anymore. I want to start my own business. And Charlie was the same, and we wanted to do a food truck. And really, super yachting was a way to travel the world. I got to experience amazing things. I got to meet amazing people, and I got to earn an amazing salary from that. Anyone that's kind of watched Below Deck or anything like that will know how good that is. And
Below Deck, is that a show?
It's like a TV show. It kind of shows what yachting is. For those that might not know what super yachting is, you're working on a billionaire's super yacht. My job was a deckhand, so and I eventually worked my way up a little bit in the industry. But yeah, so you're kind of cleaning the boat. Charlie was a chef on board, and I just remember feeling like this isn't very fulfilling for me, and I kind of want to try something else. Yeah, the money's cool, the traveling is great, but it wasn't giving me fulfillment, and I kind of felt like at that time I was also taking things for granted. And I had made a lot of savings from that. Like if I never went to university, I never took out a student loan.
Yeah, that helped.
So really I was like ahead, if I think about it in terms of financially. And even at that point when I had money, that didn't make me happy.
Exactly, man.
Which was a really kind of weird thing to feel at that time. And I felt when me and Charlie kind of had the idea to start a business, the first thing that we said was maybe we could buy a house, or start get on the property ladder, kind of set ourselves up a bit. And I was like, well, we always have time to buy a house, and a house isn't going anywhere. There's always going to be a house. Why don't we try and do a business together? Because really, at 20, like, what have we got to lose? I don't have kids. It's harder to start a business when you've got a marriage, a kids, and a mortgage. And then you're changing careers. Then that's like even harder. But the risk at that time was so minimal because I was like, we could always go back on yachts if it doesn't work.
Yeah.
And might learn something. And I really look up to people like Deborah Meaden, who is an entrepreneur in the UK. I used to watch her a lot on Dragon's Den. I used to look up to a lot of other entrepreneurs. at that time, and also Gary Vee at that time was blowing up and was kind of saying that tune of, just try things.
Yeah.
And I really resonated with that. So I was like, fuck it, let's do it. So we quit the job and started DOSMAS, and now this is where we're at. Were there times where I regretted that decision? Maybe, like during the hard times, but I don't regret. I would never take it back because I learned so much, and I'm still learning so much, and I was doing things that I wanted to do, and for me that was not to work for anyone else but to work for myself, and I got to experience that in my 20s. And you were saying your growth was from 21 to 26. I would say my growth was really from like 25 to present, was like, yes, I was still going upward, but I had a lot of emotional stuff to be dealing with and was dealing with. Like kind of my, like I say, like insecurities, my kind of moral compass wasn't really figured out before that. 25 was like literally like boom. The business started to compound, we were just taking on more, we were doing more. I was working on myself a bit more, and that really allowed me to embrace more understanding of the values and goals that I had for myself that I wanted long term.
Yeah. Well, that's as well, like you took on more responsibility.
Yeah.
We just naturally made you made you grow more.
Yeah, and it was just that continuous. I think you should be on a path for continuous learning and building yourself in a position that you can start to put into place things that you want for yourself long term,
Yeah.
And that's about just going for things and being okay that it might not work out, but it's not a reflection of who you are.
Exactly.
It never is.
As we said, like it's not about what things you have, is who you are as a person. And if you're willing to take on these risks, that tells a lot about your character and who you are as a person. I remember when I used to watch these obviously when you get into self-development, you watch all of these YouTube videos of successful people saying like, follow your values and follow who you are as a person. And I remember being at like 21, 22, I was like, I don't know, what are my values? Like, what is values? Like, what are values? It used to really frustrate me and piss me off because, like, I don't know what are my values? What am I supposed to, like, follow? And no one really told me that, like, you should just kind of think of... I mean, maybe they said it, but I didn't really understand. Now, when I'm looking back, it's simply of just looking at different things and think, would I actually like it? Say, it's like the episode we did on how to find your purpose is one of my favorite episodes, I think, because it's definitely a building block of finding your true passions. It's definitely like looking at, like, if you have nothing going in your life and you feel like, I feel like I could like martial arts, just go and sign and you sign in for the class, and then you find you don't really like, and then maybe try fucking gardening or like sewing or whatever, like all of these different things. And as you try these different things, and obviously you're gonna you take on more responsibility, and you're gonna try you're gonna face challenges, and you're gonna overcome challenges, and only through these concepts you're gonna find the values that are important to you. And I didn't know my values up until probably not last year. Like last year I kind of realized that I always prioritize self-growth and my family. Like, I just feel like I would never exchange my anything to these two values. And I was like, so yeah, that's probably in my values. Like there was nothing like, I woke up one day, I was like, oh yes, I love fucking gardening, and my gardening is my values. It's just going through these different challenges and facing these different things. And then when you grow enough, you kind of realize, yeah, I love this, and this is what I'm gonna stick to. And it can change over time as well.
It's just figuring out the things that you like and what you don't like. I wish I did more stuff that I thought about, you know, things that were on my mind that I felt like I couldn't do. If there's something that you want to do, whether that's like a class or just go for one session.
What was something you wanted to do and you didn't?
I really wanted to do more dance classes, I think, when in my 20s. I mean, I can still do that now. Now I don't necessarily have, and I've kind of fallen into the line of doing like martial arts now, but I would have loved to have done more stuff like that. Like even right now, there's like this running club I really want to join, and I know I can do that. And I you know, you never know who you meet and stuff like that.
Yeah. Well, literally, I went to I used to go networking events.
Yeah.
Like just randomly, and I met this guy who we're still in touch with. We're not super close, but like we say hi to each other from time to time. Like if I see him on social media, but we went for like a drink and that, and he's like very successful guy at his age, and he's doing really, really well. And just by going to this one networking event, I met him just randomly, and we're still like in touch. And it's like you never know who you're going to meet.
Totally, and I think that allows you to understand more of who you are is just by putting yourself in a position where you can reflect upon it and cultivate more of an understanding of what you're passionate about. And not dwelling on what you think you should be doing, just putting yourself in a position where you can do it. You know, and also I think with relationships and social life I think navigating friendships and relationships is a really tough thing to do. And sometimes it's going to be inevitable that you're going to come across relationships and friendships that aren't good for you. But you've got to take away from that's going to help you learn and progress into the relationships that you do have in the future.
Yeah.
And a way I would have done that a bit sooner would be sort of trying to understand myself and what my boundaries are and what I won't stand for and what I will stand for. And you're not taught that in school, and you're definitely not taught that enough, is trying to navigate the importance of building a support system around you that fundamentally care about you. You know, are you spending time with people that are wasting your time or you're wasting your time with? Not to say that you can't go out and have fun. Of course you can.
Yeah.
But looking at your friendship circle and going, are they putting the best out in me? Do I feel like I'm the best version of myself when I'm around those people? Because you know, or if you're in a relationship you feel is not right for you or you feel it's toxic, you might learn something from that, and I'm sure you will. But ask yourself the question that you should ask yourself is, am I in this because I think I should be, or am I in it because I want to be?
Yeah, exactly.
And your 20s is about making those mistakes, but don't let it be the detriment of your process to be better, you know? So I think a lot of that comes down to like singing the same tune of getting to know yourself fundamentally and understanding who you are. And that might be, I mean, I'll always recommend it because it did so much great for me, is having a therapist, but also having a group of people around me that supported me and will support me. Like, I have a very close group net of people. I can happily say that you're one of those people I could call any time of day about anything, and you'd be there to support.
Likewise.
Same with Charlie, same with my sister, my mum as well. And there's other individuals that know who they are that I could, confide in. And I never tried to live for trying to have this big extravagant life on social media. Like, I think when I would kind of look at social media and feel like I was insignificant or feel like I was less than what I am by looking at other people's stories, like, or highlight reel, that was one thing I had to get over.
Yeah.
I think that your 20s fundamentally is it's your journey. It's no one else's journey. And never discredit or disrespect your journey, like, because you're there for a reason and the choices that you make have meaning. And don't doubt yourself. I spent a lot of time doubting myself in my 20s and feeling like shit. Like, I'll never, like, when the pandemic happened, because that took a proportion of my 20s. I was 24, And there was like 2 good years that I lost. Well, I say I lost. It was actually like the best thing that ever happened to me. But everyone kind of felt like the pandemic had some significance in everyone's lives. But in your 20s, where there's supposed to be those years where you're taking life by the balls, in the beginning of the pandemic, I really felt robbed of it. I really felt like I got given a shit hand, and I felt really down and out about it. But I started to look a bit more inward and internalize things and go, actually, where am I at in life? Am I enjoying my life? And that's when the path of self-development kind of happened for me. Picked up the first book, The Slight Edge and The Simple Art of Not Giving a Fuck, and started listening to podcasts a bit more, started to read more. And then that's when things kind of changed. I changed my moral compass from trying to be someone to kind of going, I am that someone and I am somebody and I have choices that I can make.
Yeah.
Because I think, I feel that in your 20s you feel like you're not in control of your own choices sometimes, and you really are. And
how do you mean?
I kind of felt like life was happening for me, not that I was in control maybe at times.
Or reacting to it too.
I was more reacting to things, not actually deciding things at some points. But I try to, and still, like, as I leave it, I'm trying to I want to be able to look back and go, yeah, smashed it. I had such a good time in my 20s. Yeah, I might have missed some things, but I wouldn't be who I am now, and that's who I'm proud of.
Yeah, yeah. Just to touch a bit on the relationships as well, I feel like if you find yourself that you have a group of friends or like just a support of people that you're hanging out with, and you're not really, if you're not having the meaningful conversations, like say for example we went camping, and the thing I liked about this group of people that every one of them was like, sometimes we just go like 3 people just talks and then the rest of the people just walking by themselves, or like 2 people talking, and every time I join a conversation there's something like meaningful was talked about. But if you have a friends where you just meet for like a night out and that's it, and that's pretty much it, like I don't think you have meaningful relationships then, because like night out is completely fine, but if you just meeting for a night out and then just not having any of these deep conversations,
like deciphering who are just drinking friends, who are your actual friends.
Yeah, exactly.
You know? Like there are some people where I would just meet and like just go for beers and not really feel like, if shit is the fan, I'd be able. If
you feel like more tired after hanging out with them than just actually liberated, then it's just like you have to find new friends, mate. Like it's not good for you.
And kind of asking yourself, what do I want to be and who do I want to associate? Who do I want to be around? Who's going to be able to be there to support me in tough times? You know, I think you really know who your friends are when you have tough times, and it's inevitable for everyone, even when you're in your 20s, that you are going to face some adversity and hardship, and it's going to test you, and that's a good thing. Yeah. And who's going to be there to support you?
And relationships is such a big part of like having successful 20s, because if you just by yourself, it can be tough, because there's going to be times where you like feel like shit, and if I feel very, very down, I message Claudius, and I always say, hey mate, like look, I came up to this thing that I feel this way, and what I really, really like and love about him, that he's coming to me with like 1 sentence answers, like it's almost 1 sentence solutions. Like, well, I remember when I moved to Manchester, I felt like really, really down, and I was like, mate, do you feel the same way? Because he actually moved to York at the same time as I moved to Manchester. It's like, mate, I thought he's just myself, like I really feel down, and just like, and that felt so good, because not because I'm happy that he's also feeling down, because I'm not alone. Like I knew that he's feeling the same way, so that must be a byproduct of moving out to a different city, meeting new people, joining new gyms, work, and so on. So, and that instantly made me happier. And I was like, yeah, it's fine. Like, it's not that bad. But if I wouldn't have that friend to message and to call and ask, that would have been, I would just question my own existence. Like, why am I feeling this way and all of that? So relationship is such a big part. Again, I feel we are social animals and we need each other a lot more than we think we do. Hey guys, your feedback is very important. And no, this is not an advertisement. Actually, what I'm asking from you is to leave a comment below what you liked and most importantly, what you disliked about this episode, because we can improve on the next episodes and we can make a better content for you to listen. Give us also a topics you'd like to us talking about, and we can prepare, do your research and talk about it on the next episodes. Thank you.
Totally. Just going also to like the relationships kind of aspect. Romantically, the relationships that you had in your 20s or are having in your 20s, what is it that you kind of learned from relationships in your 20s that allowed you to have a relationship that you have with Rafal?
So I didn't have any, to be honest. Like, all of them were one night stands or just like situationships. I wouldn't even call them relationships. I've been with one girl for like 3 months. That was the maximum I've been with a girl probably throughout these 6 years. But to be honest, from that situationship, I took that the lesson and the benefits of communication. So when I used to be in previous relationships in my like 19 or whatever, like when I was a kid, like if there's a conflict, we always used to approach it as like, I'm not talking to you. Whereas you have to do a completely opposite. You have to sit down and talk what happened, because like Martin said, you experience the same situation from 2 different perspectives and 2 different mindsets. So you have to understand her point of view and your point of view as well.
Yeah, it's not, sorry to cut you off there, it's not you versus her, it's you and her versus
Exactly.
Yeah.
So from that situationship, I took that definitely moving forward, I'm definitely going to if there's a problem with my partner, I'm definitely going to sit down and like, look, this is the way I think about the problem. Am I wrong? And as well, like, just this detach from your ego as well, and stop like being this person like, no, I'm right, like, and you're wrong, and all of this shit. So I feel that's why we have such a great relationship right now, because we have these monthly meetings and all of that, and we sit down and talk, and even there's a problem, we sit down, we talk through that. So yeah, it's all good, man. I feel that was the biggest one, but other than that, I just had like one night stands and situationships and all of that. What about yourself?
It's funny you say communication, because that was exactly what I learned from my previous partners. I had some really great relationships, I had some really hard relationships, but I think the more that I matured now, the more I've realised that I don't want to do the whole like one night kind of done all that. I kind of actually want to start building a life with someone. And I think that comes with a level of maturity, but
that's as well taking more responsibility.
Yeah,
because that's a huge responsibility.
Massive. And I think for me, it's like I didn't want to waste my time with people that I thought that weren't going to be ones that were going to be around me for a while. And that was something that I just really had to cut. You know, cut people out and move on and start building people around me that were going to let me be more of who I am and what I wanted to do. But I don't think there's any right way of navigating your 20s. I think there's a couple of things that you should think about in your 20s. And one thing that I would start looking at is, if you can, getting real with it, in the sense that, okay, and I wish I knew this when I was younger, was I think financial planning is really important for anyone in their 20s. And I think if you are in your early 20s and you're sort of thinking about long-term success, I think if you understand the basic forms of budgeting, saving, and looking at investing, I think that could and obviously invest responsibly and be prepared to lose any of the money that you would do. But during the pandemic, I spent so long researching the idea of what that would be and how that would look like, because I think money, having debt, student loans, and all the rest of it is really daunting. But I think that the more you get familiar with money and the more that you really try and understand it from the psychological sense, like there's a great book called The Psychology of Money.
Yeah.
And I love that book, and it's such a key book, and I recommend anyone to read that. Like, the younger you are, the more benefit you'll have.
I'm gonna push back on it a bit, because I feel when I was like in my early 20s, I put a lot of pressure on money, and I feel because that was the currency of success. If you got money, you're successful. And I would say yes, money is important, is very important actually, but I'd feel that you should prioritize the knowledge over the money, because if you're going to spend all of your capacity, like energy, on saving as much as possible and not trying any other things, then it can be, I think, more it can be worse than good. For
sure. No, I don't mean it like that. I just mean like getting comfortable with understanding it.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Like obviously not having takeaways every other day.
Yeah. Like, you know, I think go and have experiences. Like, obviously that's all going to cost money, and go, you know, do those classes that you feel are really important to you.
Mm-hmm.
Again, like, you know, but it's more just, I think the quicker you are, I remember someone said to me, the quicker that you are to understand about money, how the system works, I think the more confident you become in decisions that you make. You know, like I was really insecure about money, and I still am to some extent, like, and I'm still finding my way in making it. But I think the sooner that you kind of understand your independency, and with that is building your own independent wealth and finance, kind of understanding that subject, like, I think there's always time to learn about it. And I think the sooner that you learn about that, or, you know, the better, because you're not taught about, if you're self-employed, you're not taught about how to do a tax return. You know, you're not, we don't learn about how to create a budget. You know, a lot of people, I imagine, don't have budget plans or allocate money for, you know, for example, I know friends of mine that probably spend maybe £200 a week, maybe £150 a week on night outs here in London. But
well, that's pretty much one round nowadays.
And like, maybe it's about kind of going, okay, yeah, maybe I can do that every couple of months. Or you know, and instead of that 150 quid, I can put that into something else, because that will allow me to have money, a little bit of money for the future.
Yeah, kind exactly.
Understanding your priorities. Not that it should take you away from experiences, because I think you should definitely throw yourself into that, and by all means put yourself out there. But I think the quicker you are to mature about the subject of money, I think you'll see the benefit of it a lot quicker than you realise.
Yeah, I agree with you on that. I agree with you. You know what? One thing annoys me as well is the decision on your career in your 20s. It's just, it triggers me so much, because if that person who was at like 20 years old, how am I supposed to know what I want to study, like where I want to get, and put myself in fucking huge amounts of debt on studies, and actually decide of what I want to do in the future? It's just, for me, this thing is such a mind-blowing thing. And I'm not saying that everyone is kind of clueless of what want to do, what they want to do, because some of the people, they generally know what they want to do, like if they want to be a lawyer, doctor, whatever, and they are successfully throughout the years. But this is such a small amount of people that actually knows who they want to be.
For sure. I would say probably 8 out of 10 people that I know that go to university don't actually have a career in what they studied.
Yeah, exactly, man.
Like,
100%.
Like, I know people that have like, yeah, I did a history degree, don't use it. I work in marketing now.
Yeah, yeah,
like, cool.
yeah.
You've got like a 50 grand debt on that.
Yeah, exactly. Like just randomly.
Because someone told you that you needed a degree, or because you couldn't make your decision then. So you kind of just went to uni because you thought that was the option to do at that time.
Yeah.
Because there might have been a pressure from either your parents or the establishment, friends, whoever.
Society.
Or, because you were like, I want to go to uni and make friends. University, when my sister went to university, I think anyone can agree that the best part of it is making friendships, living with your mates, and that teaches you how to be independent.
Exactly.
And, you know, that's really kind of like a big part of university, right? Is like...
But you don't need to go to uni to learn that.
No, fuck no.
That's it, man.
And I think if you're weighing up that decision about whether or not you should go to university because you think you should take a degree, I think you can have a pretty amazing experience without taking that debt. But there's humility in that, and you kind of have to go against the grain.
Exactly.
Because it is a very common thing to want to do that. And your parents, you might even have the pressure from your parents to go, no, you have to go. You are going to study. And that's a lot to say at that age, at like 20, to be like, no, I don't want to do that. I want to think about my decision.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of courage in that.
I feel like you should...
And you're not a loser either.
Exactly, man. Like, and I feel like you should experience... Like, the thing I like about internships and apprenticeships, because you can get in a job, learn as you earn money, and then after a few years, maybe you decide, no, that's actually not what I really like. But you're going to have such a big baggage of knowledge of like what I want to... Where would I like to go from there? Because you're not as clueless anymore. Like if you do an apprenticeship for like 3 years, now you're 23. Now you're a lot more, competent person than you were at your 20s. So,
one of my biggest recommendations would be if I was talking to a 20-year-old and they didn't know what they wanted to do, if they didn't want to go to uni, and that was a hard decision, would be go and work, save some money, go traveling. Doesn't have to be for a long time. Or go work in another country for a couple months.
Yeah, that's it. Mate, changing countries like, is a game changer.
Game changer. Because
game changer.
You're 100%. Learning how to survive. It's only you out there.
Yeah.
You're going to make mistakes. You're going to meet people. Obviously, do it within the boundaries of what's safe. And
exactly.
but anywhere is fucking dangerous in this world. But I think what that allows you to do is start to create not only a bit more survival instinct for you and you're kind of, but it puts you in a frame of mind that's saying, I want to get away a little bit. I want to take some time for myself. That's okay. And I think it's having that sort of like journey. And like your journey it's starting and it's exciting. Don't just follow the norm.
Exactly.
Everyone else does.
I'm a fan of like taking gap years.
Yeah.
It's just take a little year from like actually thinking, and you know what, like that year is probably not enough.
Yeah.
But that you're definitely going to be a bit more aware of who you want, of like, what you want to do.
Let's say you're 20 and you've got 50 years.
Exactly.
And you're spending 1 year chilling out, doing something that doesn't have to have any meaning behind it.
Yeah, exactly.
It's your year to do what the fuck you want. You can work, you can go travel, you can go save, you can, whatever your circumstance is, I think you should give yourself a chance to just put yourself in a position where you can just clearly think with some clarity. You know, like going from school to A-levels to college to like you're in this learning thing for so long. Like, why don't you just break it up a bit?
Yeah.
You know, go get a job. Like even if you're working for someone, like you'll be around people that are older than you, and you know they'll have some experience that
exactly
you don't necessarily have.
And if you're curious, you ask them questions like, should I, like I'm thinking to do this and that, and you know what, you'll be very surprised of how people are. They are more than happy to like actually tell you, well, if I would be you, I wouldn't do this or that. Like they happy to give you advice in a way, and I feel like that's what I kind of did. Like every time I used to work a job or something, and I really respect older people. I think it's just like part of my culture. We really respect older people, and I love talking to them. And I always ask these almost deep questions like, what advice would you give to your 20s and all of that. And they're more than happy to answer, and they feel like they're really happy to see that like you're actually curious about like how to make the best out of what you have.
One thing I remember someone said to me, which is asking advice from people, but people will always tell you how to live your life from like their perspective.
Yeah, exactly.
People will always say, oh, this is what I would do, or this is what I should do if they were like, if you're getting advice from someone older. But just remember that regardless of what anyone says, it's kind of your decision.
Exactly. Yeah, you have to make sure that it kind of fits your goals.
For sure. Like, because older people can be very influential, and it's very easy for people to give their opinions on how they think you should do things, but actually it's your choice at the end of the day.
Yeah.
And don't feel like that's that person's thoughts is everything to you, because you're totally within your own right to do what's right for you. And not to say that you should ignore people or ignore people's advice if they're telling you to do this, that and the other. Like, go with the idea and the open mind that trust yourself a bit, that you are capable of making the right decisions, but take from it from people that are trying to look out for you, that it's good to have as many opinions, but you also want to be able to take all, like right. I always used to take everyone's point of views and decisions, and I would kind of sit on it and then go, okay, I've listened to this person's opinion, I really value and respect them, I really look up to them, okay, I really understood their point as well, and this is kind of how I feel about it, and I feel this is the best decision on the basis of the information I have,
Yeah.
And it's all about trying to get as much information to make the right decision. But
yeah,
I think one of the key points I had for this episode was just self-discovery and personal growth, and just the importance of exploring as many interests and passions that you have at that age, and just embracing change. Like, nothing changes if nothing changes. And that was a real quote that stood out for me, because it's so true. It's like, nothing will change in your life if you don't make the change. So there is nothing to lose. Like, look at what you did. Like, you just messaged them about doing this podcast job that you're in now. Like, you could have sat on that and been like, I really want a job in podcasting, and never made any action on it. But you made an action, and now look at what you're doing.
No, that was we live in simulation, man. When I got that job, I was like, I can't believe it.
It's crazy. And also, learning about the art of pondering your thoughts and sitting within those thoughts.
Yeah.
And
that's where meditation comes in
and
as well.
Yeah, and just experiencing life for what it is as a beautiful thing, and just taking away that pressure and expectations from other people that might be trying to tell you how to live your life. It's very easy for people to tell 20-year-olds what they should be doing.
Oh yeah, like the amount, obviously I was saying about that you should listen to older people, what they say, but with a conscious mind of what you actually want, because the amount of older people said why you're not going to uni was a lot, including my mum.
Absolutely.
I think if you touch on that, it really goes into the
does it?
Audio. I'm not sure.
No. Yeah, fine. Sorry, I keep fucking with
it. So a lot of people. Was just, I remember was working in this warehouse as well, and this older person who was working. He was a cool guy, and I got along with him really well. But he's like, you should go to college, man. Like, you should get a degree. You should get a better job and just go like that. That's his way of looking at success. And I was like, nah. I just like I know what I'm doing. Like and if I don't, like, I'm going to regret it. But I feel like going to college or uni without knowing what you actually want is just a bit. And don't get me wrong, like, you shouldn't feel guilty or ashamed that you made that decision, go into uni and like, fuck, I've got all of this debt now that I have to pay, but I don't really need that degree anymore. And look, like, we all get influenced by our peers, our family, and is nothing wrong with it. But if you have not made that decision yet, I feel like this is a good advice to not actually get into that without knowing if that's you. Like, if you went to like, oh, art school when you was a kid and you really enjoyed painting, but now you're getting a job and to like become a doctor. Like, is that actually you, or you doing that because your parents say that like this is going to be good for you?
Yeah, exactly. It's a really, and like other things I think is really important. I suppose this is my 2 cents in a way, is understanding the importance of prioritizing your mental health when you need it. Always maintain your physical health through diet and exercise and sleep. Just because you're young and you don't feel it, it will catch up on you for sure. I feel that fucking 29. Yeah. You know, so looking at things that allow you to find balance and meaning, like we were talking in the last episode, but like just because you're young, like you should still get after it from a physical sense as well.
100%.
Like massively. And then I think as well, kind of navigating your 20s is trying to set your priorities and manage your time, but then also embracing your independence and learning essential skills that you will need, like learning how to cook a decent meal. That if you know,
I need to learn that.
Learning how to, like that was
shit cook.
If that was something, or things where, like in your 20s, really you're becoming a young adult.
Yeah,
you shouldn't. And for me, I didn't necessarily have the choice to lean on as many people as I did, and I had to learn really quickly and grow out really quickly.
Yeah.
And I think a lot of that came from, okay, I need to be good at essential things. Like I should make sure that my place is clean. I should make sure that my washing is done. I should be able to cook a decent meal. I should be able to know that. Like, I should be able to go and exercise because that's a priority. Once you kind of have those things in balance and in place, and you're doing those things for yourself that allows you to become more independent, you'll then start looking for things and you'll ask yourself the questions of, fuck, what do I want to do in my life?
Yeah, exactly, man.
You know, I think it kind of all has something to say for itself. Like, looking at the 4 pillars that I always talk about, this is your health, what are your goals financially, what are your goals career, and what are your friendships and relationships like. Like, if you're prioritizing those 4 things in your 20s, you're doing a hell of a lot better than most people. And you're way ahead of the game.
And you have to realize that, I'm going to touch on physical and mental health specifically, because if you not prioritizing your physical and mental health in your 20s, you're going to feel fine majority of the time. But if you're just going out every other weekend or every weekend, you're not exercising, you're eating shit, like you're not doing all of these essential things, it's gonna catch up with you later on in the life, because these things compound. And the fact that you've been partying for the last 10 years, it's not just gonna be, like that's it, my 20s are gone, it's fine. Now all of these drinks they had are still in the back, it's still in the background. But now as you're getting older, it's gonna start to catch up with you. And I feel that's why it's really, really important to actually get into the gym, focus on your mental health, exercise, meditate, all of the journal, all of these things, having meaningful relationships. You mentioned 4 domains, but I feel there are the big 5. So I wrote down here: self-discovery, values, career, mental and physical health, and relationships and friendships. It's like imagine you having a table, which is, I'm going to steal that analogy from James Smith, but he spoke about mental health, and I'm going to adjust it to overall well-being, which is kind of goes hand in hand. So these 5 is like overall well-being is the table, and these 5 segments are like legs of the table. So if you knock 1 or 2 of the legs, table is going to still stand, but if you're gonna knock 2, 3, 4, table is going to collapse, and that's your overall well-being is just gonna take the damage of what you did in the past.
Totally. And my sister said this to me. She was like, the party's always going to be there.
Yeah.
And I feel like there is a genuine change of mindset overall, where people are leaning into more of a healthier lifestyle, I find. But
I feel it's just your circle.
Maybe, yeah.
Do you know what? I've really noticed that, because as I was going into jiu-jitsu and like Muay Thai, I was meeting all of these healthy people. I was like, yeah, definitely people are becoming more aware. But then I talk with other people who like going out a lot, and there's like, nah, just like people going out a lot more than often. But you know what, like, I'm not gonna sit down here and say like I never go out and all that. You need that. You definitely need to go out and play and have fun and go out from time to time. But if that becomes your that becomes a habit, then I think it's a problem.
Yeah.
So you have to, again, it's a balance. You have to have both.
It's a fucking trippy period to live in. Like 20s is.
I'm looking forward to my 30s though. It's gonna be sick.
Me too. Like, so just one thing as well on that. One thing that I started doing was really basic goal setting, and you made this point: having goals that you can control, not putting in goals in place that like are totally out of your hands. You know, like,
not necessarily that. Like the way I look at it is focusing on the input.
Yeah.
So let's take this podcast again. I mentioned this in the previous episode as well for people who didn't hear. So let's take this podcast. What we can control is the amount of episodes we're going to create, which is we agreed to create 52 by the end of the year. This is something we can fully control. If not, it's down to us. We've been just lacking. What we can't control is to get 10,000 subscribers by the end of this year, because you never know what people are going to watch, how people are going to interact, what's going to be good, what's not. Like these things completely outside of our control, but we can focus on the inputs, episodes, posting content, being consistent with the content, all of these things. And I think it has to be the same with your goals. You shouldn't say by the end of 2025 I'm gonna have 2 mil in my bank account, but at the time I don't have a job. Like it's just like, it's fine, it's good to have good big dreams and all of that, and but you have to be, you can't be delusional. You have to be you have to have a plan in place. How are you gonna end up $2 million pounds, sorry. So yeah, it has to be like, if you can save £10 a week, what's likely you're gonna save it at the end of the month? Well, that's 40. So obviously you can stretch yourself a bit. I'm gonna save like £60, but then you have to like obviously start to look for ways of getting those extra £20. So I feel like that's how you should set the goals. But that's, I feel, how it works best for me, because there is no that extra pressure on me as well. Like I know I can do those 52 podcasts, and whatever happens with the views, subscribers, sponsors, whatever, it's completely outside of my control. If they come, it's fine. If they're not, I'm focusing on what I have at hand.
I think you nailed it. Like, yeah, it's, when it comes to not only setting those, I also think it's really important to celebrate your achievements, because I think in your 20s we're very quick to also doubt ourselves a lot. There's still a lot of that. So not only having those kinds of in place, but then also celebrating the little wins. Celebrating the things that you can control. I don't think there's enough of that. Everyone's so quick to, and I was in my 20s, so quick to doubt everything, or it wasn't good enough. Celebrate it, even if you are young and naive. You know, it's a part of the growth. You know, and any kind of level of adversity that you face, that's really where the growth comes in. So just embracing that with an open mind, and with an open heart, and an understanding that you are going to get through it at the end of the day. Secret question. Biggest moment in your 20s that you would share with your children in order to help them?
Ooh. I'd say lean into discomfort. It's very cliche to say that because it's a very common answer. But it's when I look on how I talk with my nephew, he's 15 now. And whenever we used to go play basketball, I used to always beat him. I give him a chance to win, but then I beat him because I feel like if I'm gonna let him win, like I beat him and then I kind of tell him that like you have just try to become better. Like I encourage him, and I feel that's when they kind of start to like look at different things. And there was a time when he was playing basketball at his school quite often, and they came in and he beat me. I was like, well done, man. Like, and he actually trained for it and he did it. So I feel like losing, especially for a young kid, is very uncomfortable.
Yeah.
And I didn't do like in a almost a way that I'm taking the piss out of him. I did it on purpose. Like I let him win a bit, and then I'm just gonna start playing a better, like just trying to play better, and then I see how he reacts to it. But so yeah, it's just all about leaning into discomfort, and again, that's where the most growth comes out, and that's how you change as a person. That's what worked for me. Like when I was a teenager, I was just so lazy. I didn't know what is discomfort. But if I would know that when I was like 10 years old, I would just make like little adjustments to become a bit more uncomfortable each day. I would be a completely different person right now. But it's fine. Like I'm not regretting that. But that's definitely something I'm gonna instill in my kids, just being uncomfortable, and I'm gonna make them uncomfortable, obviously. So
sure, it's part of the process.
Yeah. What would you say was the hardest period or thing that you went through in your 20s? And why?
I made a mistake in DOSMAS that potentially was going to lose it. I took that very personally, and I really didn't think I was going to get through it. And yeah, was just like really.
What was the thing, if you don't mind sharing?
I had like essentially, as an employer, was going to go to tribunal with an ex-employee.
Why?
Because they thought that they were sort of unlawfully dismissed, which wasn't the case. But I just remember being in that time and feeling really insecure about the decisions that I made, and I made a mistake, and that's okay. And it wasn't that I made a mistake, I didn't do anything wrong. I could have, some things you just can't plan for. But I took that very personally, and I took that really hard, and that was a really hard moment for me because I'd never had someone personally try to attack me. Especially when it came to everything I worked so hard for to be taken away. That was like, and still now, a really hard bitter pill to potentially swallow. Any entrepreneur that really goes through it, when you're faced with hardships that can take away things that you work, no one cares about you. No one gives a fuck. If anything, people want to see you fail. And I try and look at the world with really open arms and try and love it of every single thing. And I try and love people in every capacity that I can. And I can sit here and say that I am a nice person, you know. But I felt like I'd done something wrong, and I felt like I couldn't fix it. And it was fine. It ended up working out good, and you know, they got what they wanted, and luckily I got what I wanted, and you know, it all kind of worked itself. But I remember just feeling in that moment like, fuck, this is one of the hardest things.
How long ago was that?
2 years ago. And it was just, but I knew it was so important to my growth. After that, straight away, was like, that's never going to happen again.
Yeah, exactly.
Exactly. And it was necessary, you know. I remember even calling my friend about it, and he was like, yeah, this is what we have to go through in order to be who we want to be. You know, it's never going to be easy. It never was. It's never going to be supposed to.
That's what you signed up for, you know.
What was it? Ian told Charlie, and Charlie told me that whatever it is that brings you down, remember that's the level of cost it was in order for you to be the person that you are.
Yeah, exactly.
I can live with that.
Exactly, yeah. Sweet.
Thank you, everyone that's been listening to this. If you made it this far into the podcast, as always, get in touch, and we'll see you in the next one. Sweet.